Speak Up Africa is a digital platform that creates space for digital conversations to be made, specifically from end-to-end usage, from the users of the technological spaces, to the producers of it, to the creators, to the innovators, to the labor rights, to the policy increments, to governance, and all other technological dimensions. This is Speak Up Africa. I am Zaha Speaks. We inform, engage, and empower.
Welcome to yet another episode of Speak Up Africa. And today we are here to have a very sensitive conversation. And it's true to say that over the years we have made good strides about gender equality and women in spaces of leadership and governance. However, having said all that and all the achievements that have been made in these spaces, women still face a lot of challenges in this front. Talk about access to funds, media discrimination, gender discrimination, harassment online, and so much more. And all these challenges make it so difficult for some of these women to step up, to perform to the best of their capabilities and abilities and really serve us, the people, at the maximum best. And today I have a lady I respect and admire a lot. She has walked through different forums, amplified her voice with a lot of boldness to come and join me and have this discussion. Nerima, good morning.
Morning.
Oh
Good
my
morning.
God. Oh my God.
At the beginning stages of our flu,
Yeah.
but good morning. How are you?
I'm good. You okay? I can clearly see how your state is. More grace to you, by the way. More grace to you.
Thank
May
you.
May you arrest the cold before it gets worse.
Telling you. I'm telling you. And it starts with that, like, you're feeling itchy, and it just started this morning.
Yeah.
So I'm like, after this, I'm just going to go home and try and take care of it before it gets worse.
More grace.
Thank you.
Welcome so much. I'm so glad to have you here this morning. I have followed you over the years with the remarkable works that you have done,
Thank you.
being very bold and fearless, being fierce in amplifying your voices in conversations that very many women would shy off. I would want you to start us off with, how has your journey been? How has your experience been in the spaces of leadership and governance, especially you being a young woman?
I think it's been difficult. I will not start with the flowery stuff at the end in terms of success. And that's the thing with a journey. The beginning is always even tougher because, starting off, I'm already petite. I'm tiny. I'm like 5'1". And so by the time you're starting and you're saying you want to be in politics, you want to be in governance, people are like, this child. And so now I look like I could be in university. So then I look like I'm supposed to be in primary.
I can imagine.
That's 10 years ago. And I would say some of the most difficult things was building my credibility, the institution's credibility. So I always knew that I would be put at an unfair standard. So that made me a really tough boss sometimes with my team. I have a very good team, excellent team. And it's one of those things where we have built a culture of we're not competing with anyone but ourselves. So every beginning of the year, it's how do we improve? What can we do better in the sector, especially when you're talking about a youth organization engaging in politics and encouraging young women to join politics. And I would say it's been eye-opening in terms of even seeing that, women already engaging is difficult. For young women, there are even more barriers for them.
For sure.
Yeah. And just creating a space where there's a community, there's a network. So I would say the most challenging aspect has been, building that reputation, that credibility, but then now, even leading to people trusting and even supporting the institution. And then you now identifying others to build and support has been the work. So that's the fulfilling part.
Yeah.
I feel that's the part that makes me extremely happy when I see young women in leadership, and say, how can we support? And we were able to support that. So it's a yin and yang where, you're really fulfilled with the work that you do, but also knowing how tough it is and I'm one of those people who I hardly go through comments because I feel like I'm super sensitive
Yeah.
and I don't want to have sleepless nights because I'm not understanding why someone is insulting me or the kind of hair that I have.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do with what I'm saying. So finding techniques to maneuver as a leader and what works for you, because we're not all the same.
Yeah.
We are not all going to go on our platforms and insult people who insult us because we're just not like that.
Yeah.
And I think for me that has been the learning process of leadership.
Nice. As you were speaking, I was just reflecting back to all that you've said, and it honestly looks and feels like a lot of work for women in these spaces. And 10 years, almost a decade, this is quite a long time. And I believe it's true to say we've made quite some good strides in this front, you know. When we were at People's Dialogue Festival, I could see very many youthful ladies and women come out and want to be part of these voices. I went to villages where we had high school kids, you know, and we had girls who were coming out and saying they wanted leadership positions. However, the challenges are still there and we cannot ignore. So, number one, from where you stand, what is the position for women in governance right now in our country when we are showing up on the ground in public spaces? Is it the reality when it comes to pertinent positions up there, or do we do that at most and then shy off from now stepping into the rooms and being part of these positions?
So that's a good question because, you know, seeing that, you know, my organization has existed and then we are utilizing the Constitution of 2010. And so when we were formed in 2015, you'd begin to see some devolution, you know, and the fact that affirmative action, the women rep position, you're beginning to see now new faces coming to the fore. But what we saw also is there seems to be also not that much of a jump that we had expected. So in 2022, even when you look at the number of members of county assembly, most MCAs are nominated when it comes to women. And this is because there are actually counties in our country that have only one woman elected as an MCA. Yeah, in our country.
Sad reality.
Yes, that's the reality. And even now when you come to MCA, and I'm focusing on MCA because majority of them are actually below the age of like 35 or 40, because it's the lowest, you know, position. So that's where you start off your career for many. And out of the over 300 who are below the age of 35, 303 were male.
Wow.
And so when you talk about women, there are 14, 1-4, who are elected. 1-4. And so Nairobi, the capital city, we have so many wards and we only have 5 women who are elected MCA. So this is this, like, let's look at the facts, let's look at the numbers. And so when you look at the numbers, you know, people are like, but women, you're now okay. You have women rep, like you have enough representation. And you're like, no. Not too long ago, when governors would meet, there would be no single woman, like long ago, like at all, like 10 years ago, there was no woman who was a governor. And now when we're talking about 7 and now 6 because Meru, and now we're seeing Nakuru questioning their governor. You're seeing that we will probably have the female governors left, more being impeached. And even when you talk about the judiciary, CJ, Kome, they're also talking about removing her from her position. So you can definitely see, so even though we have fewer women in these high-level positions, you're still seeing the amount of attacks they receive compared to their male counterparts. And you can also see that for many of them, even to last throughout their term, it's very difficult. They will probably get cases of impeachment. I'm pretty sure for many of them by the time 2027 rolls around. So I would say that the differences that we've seen is women's engagement on platforms has increased. You're seeing a lot of women talking about politics on their social media platforms. You go to the communities, you see a lot more women in barazas, but there are still more men. And even when we look at public rallies, right? If there's supposed to be campaigns or rallies being had, you will see caravans being surrounded by mainly men. So we still see that disconnect. And also, it's also because, I mean, women, you're doing a lot more at home. So even your schedule is completely different.
Yeah.
You don't have that luxury of time. You have children, you're on the farm, you're in the market. I mean, you're balancing a lot. So by the time you're sitting down and, talking politics or finding time to attend a rally, your schedule is completely different. So I would say there's been some improvements in some aspects, but parliament still doesn't meet 2/3. We still see challenges in terms of 50-50.
Yeah.
We still see political parties struggling with even the national executive councils in having the right representations or in terms of balance. So it's still a huge work in progress.
All right. Let's dwell a bit on this perspective of primarily, leave alone even in leadership and governance, the society has deemed us to be household leaders, be in the house. If you manage to even rise up ranks in the corporate space, when it comes to times where you want to bring up a family and have kids, the work is more, because when you go out on this maternity leave, will you come back and will you come back in the same position? Such challenges. When we have more men than women, do they understand the struggles that we go through? And when we go through these struggles, do we have the enough support and cushioning that is required? And this brings me to structures, all right? Do we have enough structures that support us? All right. If we even talk about the 2/3 gender rule, which is almost like, you never used to be any, now you have two. You should be grateful that at least you're being seen, So it's like we are getting the breadcrumbs from the table. It's like you should be grateful at least you've even been called for an interview, And those are some of the challenges that we are highlighting. So do we have proper structures that have been put to place that, let's say, ideally should defend both male and female, but when push comes to shove, really backs up the women in these leadership spaces? And if they're there, are they effective, really?
The most basic of policies are in existence, but the challenge that we have now, is the actualization of them. And I say this because even as simple as a room for breastfeeding, that was something that Member of Parliament Martha Wangari had to table for it to come forth. So you can imagine, we've been independent for 60 plus years, and a room for breastfeeding didn't exist within Parliament buildings. And so for someone, a serving Member of Parliament, to have to push that, and how many women have given birth and existed even prior to that, that means they had to have found their own individual private spaces to do that. And this is a reality. And so it's really the fact that, no, the structures are completely male. In fact, there's a colleague, a friend, Mule Musau from Ilog, he's constantly saying the way structures are built, especially governance structures, it's built like a urinal. So you go to the bathroom and you expect women to use that urinal. Like it exists, use it. And you're like, how? How am I supposed to use it?
Exactly.
And so you have to dismantle and make this space adequate for all to be able to have access. And that's the dismantling that's happening now when people are more vocal about these structures, that it might have worked for you, but now that we're here, it's not working for us. And how do we make this more accommodative? And of course, it also comes from a background of people understanding why. A lot of times when we have these conversations, people think it's just about women, but it's about gender. It's just to make things fair enough where anytime there's a minority of a gender, they feel that they have access, and they do have access, not just feel. And that's the difference. And that's the part that public doesn't understand, that this is not just about women. This is, if any comes a point, because even right now when we talk about gender, women are more. When we talk about even institutions of higher learning, women are more.
For sure.
So it's only a matter of time. It's only a matter of time.
For sure.
And men would want to say, okay, let's make the environment even for all, not wait until now women come and overtake. And then it becomes something where it's competitive.
Yeah.
You don't want that. And so that's the public aspect that a lot of people don't quite understand about gender.
Okay. Nerima, let's bring up, it's not a myth, but let's tap into this conversation where, especially women, we are our own enemies. The other day I was taking a cab and it's a lady driver that I got. I resisted the temptation of canceling, for real, and I'm going to be very honest. And for some time in the back, I would get a female driver and I would automatically cancel, because I'm just like, I don't want to deal with her drama, first of all. I don't know what mood she is in, so I just don't want the risk of dealing with it, And I'm like, maybe if I'm late, a male driver would maneuver the roads better, he would drive faster. It's just believing that they're in a more superior place to execute certain things. But I had to consciously call myself to the realization that, Wendy, you believe in yourself that you're so good at what you do in public speaking, in podcasting. It would be very unfair for you to invite, for example, Nerima and say, because it's a chick, a young chick, I don't know. Does she know what she's doing, But the reality is that, I don't know if to call it stigma or stereotype, still exists in our communities, that we do not champion and advocate for each other passionately, Number one, have you experienced that? Have you experienced that? And how do we get out of this notion? Because when I got into the cab, I actually just chatted the conversation. She was a very friendly lady. And I said, by the way, you know what? How has your experience been in this industry? You having to interact with women and men equally. What has the experiences been, And very many things came out of that. And as we sit here to champion for women, is the reality on the ground that we truly, passionately champion for one another in these positions, or the story is different?
I was actually going to ask you how the ride ended up. She was okay.
It was good. She was okay, and we spoke about it, and she was like, even when she was starting the job, she had the fear. Because it's just, I don't know, there's a bit of meanness. There's a barrier that women just have, but we need to talk ourselves out of that. We need to connect with one another. And I think the society for a very long time had the divide and conquer rule that women versus women, it has to be problematic, Either one of you has to be at the top. You all cannot complement one another. And that has had a ripple effect in so many generations. And I hope we are the ones to break it. That the ones who come after us get environments where women especially, have a safe space of we can grow one another. So let me bring it back to you.
Yeah, no, I was going to laugh about that, because I've had, one situation happen to me personally, where someone came to my office when everyone else had gone for lunch. Okay. So everyone in my office knows that I do not go for lunch. Like, I'll either, pack lunch and eat it in my office, because I also feel it's the downtime for me to be able to just catch up on things, because sometimes I get a lot of walk-ins and questions.
Yeah.
So it's also for me for midday to tap in.
Yeah.
And so no one's in the office. And so someone walks into the office and I go open the door, I welcome him in, and he's like, "Oh, I'm here to see the director." And I'm like, "Yeah, sure." And he's like, "Stop it. Like, do I leave my number or what?" Like, and I'm looking at him like,
you're speaking to the director.
Did you Google where you are going?
Yeah.
So I was like, okay. So I played along, because I was like, okay, he assumes I'm the secretary, so let's play. So I went and I got sticky notes, and I was like, okay, give me your number. And he gave me, and I was like, okay. And as soon as the director comes, I will let you know. And he went. And so when my team comes back, I give Patrick the sticky note and I'm like, hey, this guy came to see the director. And he looks at me like his face just like goes white. Like, what? And I'm like, yeah, he's looking for the director. And I tried to talk to him, but he couldn't relate.
Even, it's just, like, yeah.
It was just not making sense in his mind that I was the director. So I was like, you can talk to him and reach out to him and just let him know that he met me. So I don't see, like, I don't know what he wanted, but you can reach out to him. And so that experience happened to me before. And the reason why I was giving that example, it's because it has happened to me multiple times. I am the kind of person who I genuinely pay attention to everybody because I am a living, breathing example of don't judge a book by its cover.
For sure.
I am a living, breathing example. And so for me, that has also made me extremely sensitive to recognizing those stereotypes, even when they sink in. And let me even show you how, subtle it is, because I can be very direct. And I've even had people that genuinely would be not really afraid, but timid around me.
Yeah.
And I've built that reputation. And if a man was to do it, they'd be like, oh, wow, he's so decisive.
He's so, he fits the position.
He fits it. And
he speaks power.
Yes. And I've also noticed that in terms of I bring off a different energy, even though I would do the exact same thing. And even if, people expect you to smile more, be friendlier, be welcoming. And for me, the beginning of where I pushed back on this is attending meetings and then being sometimes the only female and expected to pray. Okay? Why don't you pray for us? I nipped that in the bud.
I see that.
So you need to start recognizing, okay, where are stereotypes playing on me? And it can be as little as, why don't you bring us the tea?
Yeah.
Why don't you serve
moves.
us? And I'm like,
God,
no, I will not. And so that intentionality, one, is really, really key for all of us. And I normally joke with people, I'm like, you guys, men are more petty than women. Did you see our president's statement the other day? He literally had a freaking 1 hour meeting about so Baruch did this. And I tried to tell Gashagwa he's not friends with anyone. And then who is pettier?
Just for a minute. Thank you for saying that. Woo! I listened to that and I was like, do you know, literally this is quote unquote primary school Kelvin. And this one said, and it's not did, it's the reporting said. Person X said. So daddy, please come and solve this.
Yeah, and
then
he
we
went
are done.
To
then
solve it.
Person Y. Yeah. And the fact that he would call,
you notice everyone he talked about was a man.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is a typical example of how stereotypes don't work, against men.
Yeah.
They're doing exactly what they say women do. But that didn't come out. The nation literally watched the president for 1 hour. I was going to say some other words.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is ridiculous. I turned it off. I said, I cannot watch this. If I want to watch drama, let me stick to my Netflix. There's enough drama over there.
For you to watch.
For me to watch. I'm not going to do this. And so for me, it's for us to just, stop and be like, if this was a woman, how would that...
Should have been a trending topic on X.
Yeah. And so I would say that, no, women are not their worst enemies. And I think the way, society structures, it's really unfair to women. And because of that, and because I've experienced that, I'm extremely sensitive to that. And I tread very differently. And I dismiss that. Every time someone comes and tells me that, I dismiss, because I say it is circles, it is chamas that have built this nation. It is women contributing resource together for you to be in school, for you to pay your health bill.
Yeah.
It's women. Yeah. So how come they can be together? Everywhere else you say we can't come together?
For sure. For sure. So Nerima, we've been to the streets. We are in a time of awakening. I say that, mid last year, very many things shifted, and the young people came out. And young ladies and women came out, And right now, everyone is having conversations that are gearing towards the next general election, I've had guests here who we've had conversations around beyond the ballot, what happens. And even as we move towards that, and we've had conversations even when the president was saying, and we were saying, by law, we have to wait for 2027. So we said, fair enough, let's have conversations that will build the momentum for disruption as we move towards that front, And you've been very vocal about creating spaces where women can be supported after all the harassment that happens online, after all the discrimination that happens on the ground, But we are still saying we are pushing barriers. So 2027 is not so far away, to be very honest. The time is here, the time is now, What are you doing in your own capacity to capacity build for women, to rally behind women and say, you know what, ladies, this is our time. We need to make a difference in the marks, in the numbers, in the occupation for 2027.
I'm so proud of women who came out to the protests and kept coming. And for me, that was the success of the protests. If it wasn't for brave women coming out, we wouldn't have had those numbers, because young men saw women at the forefront and they were like, whomst am I?
Exactly.
To be at home if women can go to the forefront. And I honestly believe that it's because of women's engagement the protests were so successful. Number two, I am so proud of young women who are yet to choose sides politically. It is the young men who have. None of the women have. That shows you how strong and brave and courageous women are. Even though history tries to erase them, there were women who are at the forefront, and they still are. They're still part of the movement. They have not joined any political alignment. They have not joined any political godfather, and they must be mentioned today, because history has a good way of erasing women.
True.
And I'm proud of them.
True.
Number three, extremely proud of Nyamisa Chelagat and Charlotte Ketmund for standing with Maraga and gallivanting this country and saying that for them, that's their candidate.
For sure.
Young women. Again. Okay?
Yeah.
So women are in the forefront. Young women are in the forefront, but they are not recognized as strongly as men. And the thing that we are doing is supporting women like those, one. Secondly, we're doing an ID campaign where we are in 17 counties at the moment, encouraging people who have just turned 18 to get their IDs. And if they're struggling with the experience, to let us know. We have petitioned based on IDs, and we're so happy that they reduced the 300 shilling price. That shouldn't have been there in the first place. We're pushing for voter registry to open up and have an audit of the voter register. We're also pushing for IEBC to be accountable. So even organizing youth groups in those spaces to be more vocal and present in observing these interviews. That's just like some of the basic that we're doing as we prepare for 2027. But I agree with you.
Okay.
It's in a new dispensation.
we are in a time of awakening and newness. A decade, Nerima, you mentioned, and your works can be seen and they speak for
Thank you.
themselves. Do you have any political ambitions that you would want to stand and say, now, guys, let's do this? The time is here. The time is ours. Are we seeing you in any ballot in the near future? Is it something that you would think about, consider,
Elective? I don't know. But I know I'm more of a technocrat. I'm definitely someone who I will be behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Definitely this 2027, I will be very actively involved in politics. Me standing myself, still thinking I don't know, but I know for sure I will serve. I will serve this country.
Okay. For the purposes of the conversation we are having today, is it number one, because you're a woman, or is it a personality inclining kind of thing? Because I know, and we were even talking about it off camera, the things that, just because you're a woman, and just the way I asked, you could be so vocal and so strong, but to support and rally behind people. But when you're called now to stand, you're like, because of all these challenges, am I sure I want to subject my womanhood to this, my kids to this, my family to this? And I think the unfairness is there when things don't come out very clearly. I was watching a documentary that Martha Karua was talking, the likes of Gladys Wanga, Boss Chole, and they were like, in their political careers, times that things have not gone really well, it has had a detrimental effect even on their kids, because what the media brings to light is your mom, this woman, this wife. How could she? The marriage didn't work. But it's never a leader who made wrong decisions. It's never, this was just a woman representative who the other day when her name is escaping my mind, and she said she couldn't read the oath, But some people are like, now she's crying because she's a woman. But really, if we really took out that context of it, she was just being a human being and a member of parliament saying, this is not fair in my own eyes. So to bring it back, is it just a personal decision, or a bit it's because I'm a woman again?
I hear you. The person you're talking about is Senator Gloria Woba.
Gloria, yeah.
And the reason is because I don't take bull. And I feel that an elective position, I will be dealing with political party disputes, political leader disputes, and then also the public. I'm a person who I enjoy implementing, and I enjoy to see the results. And I feel that's a level of cabinet where you're able to work, you're an institution, and I won't be worrying about gallivanting to Mount Kenya region because I have been summoned by the president to do so. I just know my personality. So you're right. It's based on personality.
Okay.
And I just know where I'm able to serve best. And that would be it. But I would encourage people to vie. My husband vied for Member of Parliament 2022 in Mathare. And he did extremely well. Got second. And it's crazy that he got that in Mathare on UDA. And so he's a very strong political young leader in Mathare. And so we come from a very political household. And I know his personality.
I wanted to ask that.
And my personality,
yeah.
He's the politician.
Yeah.
He's the people person. He enjoys the rallies, the engagement. I get drained by them.
But you're good at implementing. All right. So as we roll this, as we come to the tail end of this conversation, Nerima, especially to the young people, I'm so passionate about the young folk in this country. We have the numbers. We make up 75% of this population, In the recent past, we've seen the numbers on the ground vis-a-vis the numbers after the polls don't match up, But we are seeing a time where people are now getting more engaged in civic education, showing up to get knowledge. What is it that you can tell the young people as we wind up, just to prepare themselves, even as we get to better decision making, even as we get to more knowledge empowerment, Because I have been doing a bit of research and reading, Nerima, and it is sad to see that even the numbers in 2022 didn't add up. We didn't show up to vote. We didn't get involved. Call barazas, call town hall meetings. We were not part of the conversation. But I'm seeing a bit of shift in that, And for me, the most recent one being Youth Dialogue Festival, young people showed up in numbers, and not just showing up of being paid. It was show up of passion, show up of truly, truly believing in the cause that they want to see, in the change that they want to see. So what is your message for young people, both male and female? You know, we are gaining the momentum to disrupt the conversation and to bring a new awakening.
It's definitely not to disengage, because when we look at the numbers of people who didn't vote, like they just didn't even get a voter's card, and we combine it with the number that had voters' cards and didn't go out
Show
to
up.
vote,
Yeah.
that number is 14 million. Like that number could have kicked out both Raila and Ruto.
Yeah.
And so now what we're seeing is the fact that we have a leader who is leading with a minority. Majority of the population didn't have the confidence enough to actually put him into power. And that's how we are seeing a lot of this disconnect, disfranchisement. And what I tell to young people all the time, you might not like politics, but let me tell you, politics likes you so much. Like it is in love with you.
Yeah.
And it is affecting your everyday life. And so whether you choose to partake in that or not, it's going to have an impact on your everyday life. So I'd encourage them to continue to be involved, but to definitely participate. And there's going to be a narrative that's going to come. There's going to be, you're going to waste your vote if you vote for that person. What has saving our vote given us? I'm telling them, waste your vote.
Yeah.
This is the election where all of us should waste our vote.
Yeah.
And just see what it gives us
Yeah.
and to participate in it. Yeah.
Exactly. Thank you so, so much. So, Nerima, just your last sentiments around the conversation we've had to women who feel scared, to women who are still healing from traumatic episodes that they've had, to women who are shying away from positions because they've had other people's experiences, you know, and how can they probably connect to you if they would want to connect to your organization, and also just a breath of strength and awakening for them.
Definitely, we all feel scared. I don't think it's something that even myself I'm used to. I just do things in fear, but with courage. And I like to recite, 2 Timothy 1:7. And that's just that we don't have a spirit of fear, but of power, love, and sound mind. But also, most importantly, to find community. So Siasa Place, we're Siasa Place on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on TikTok, anywhere you'll find Siasa Place, and find the community, because we have a lot of events and you get to meet people who are like you. It's your tribe. And, we are constantly outside Nairobi in various counties. Find out when we're having, sports tournaments and come and meet people there. And I feel, once you surround with people who are like you, who think like you, it builds your confidence and also sense of community. So you don't have to feel like alone and scared, and you can be able to do things together when you're in a community rather than alone.
Wow. Nerima, thank you so much for coming. And I love what you've said in your parting shot. Fear and courage can coexist. One does not necessarily have to be there without the existence of the other. I think the power lies in how much you let each of them affect you, And thank you so much for watching up to this far of the conversation, women taking up spaces of leadership and governance. And these are the conversations we want to have more here at Speak Up Africa. My name is Wendy Lois, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode. For now, kwaheri.
Speak Up Africa is a digital platform that creates space for digital conversations to be made, specifically from end-to-end usage, from the users of the technological spaces, to the producers of it, to the creators, to the innovators, to the labor rights, to the policy increments, to governance, and all other technological dimensions. This is Speak Up Africa. I am Zaha Speaks. We inform, engage, and empower.